Hi, my name is Frank Schaefer, and I would like to explain the Trump era. I grew up in an evangelical family. I was born in 1952. I'm going to be 73 in a few weeks. And the arc of my life spans the destruction and the disintegration of the evangelical community. It became utterly politicized in the 70s and 80s because of my dad and me and Dr. C. Everett Koop, Ronald Reagan's Surgeon General. And the three of us made a film series called Whatever Happened to the Human Race that turned the, quote, abortion issue into a litmus test. What a lot of people don't know is until we came along, most evangelicals were not interested in the abortion issue. It was not part of being an evangelical. There was no idea of a litmus test on moral issues that would then instruct you how to vote as a follower of Jesus. Evangelicalism was about evangelism. The Reverend Billy Graham, for instance, when I was a little boy, was a big hero to evangelicals. I knew him well. He used to come visit us in our chalet in Switzerland, where my parents ran a place called Le Brie Fellowship, an open home ministry that I grew up in. Fast forward to the present tense. Where are we? What are we? What lessons can we draw from the Trump era that we are in the middle of? And we do not know how it will turn out or whether we will survive as a nation, what will happen to the economy, and all the other bits and pieces of legislation, high tax for the poor, low tax for the rich, benefits cut for the poor, benefits increased for the rich. We see all these directions, the betrayal of Ukraine by the United States because of Tucker Carlson and his lick-spittle sycophant follower, J.D. Vance, who does what he says when it comes to Ukraine and why we're defunding them and taking away their defense project. All of these things are happening. But it's time to understand the Trump era and what it really is. And what I'm going to say now may surprise you a little bit, but please stick with me. It's not what you think. The Trump era signifies one thing. We don't know how it'll end. Will we still have a democracy? Will we still have a system where votes count? Or will our actual voting system be intimidated and corrupted by Donald Trump, which is clearly his aim, but will he be able to do it? All those are open questions, but let me express what I think the Trump era is. What the Trump era is a damnation and curse upon both our houses, and I'm not talking about houses of government, our liberal versus conservative, our right-wing versus left-wing houses. You know, at the end of Romeo and Juliet, the prince says, "A plague on both your houses," talking about the Capulets and the Montagues who have destroyed their community of Verona in this civil war that they've launched between these two families. And they've killed these two innocent young people who have committed suicide in the tomb where Juliet is buried. A curse on both your houses. And I say the same thing to the left and the right, because the Trump era can only be understood as one thing, and that is the absolute failure and the hell that we have created for ourselves by unforgiving, unmerciful pursuit of culture war on all sides. Holier-than-thou, self-righteousness from the left and the right, that has, over the last 50 years, oh no, this is nothing to do with woke versus no woke, or issues of gender and sexuality. This is to do with a sweep of history that began in the 1960s, when the left began trolling the right, when the peaceniks and the anti-Vietnam protests began trolling the military-industrial complex and were in turn trolled back and even shot at Kent State and other places. This has to do with the civil rights movement being usurped and taken over by people who wanted to extend it into many, many other areas: women's rights, gay rights, this and that, trans rights. Oh, I'm not commenting on any of those issues of whether they are good or bad. I'm just telling you what happened. The fact of the matter is both sides began to build walls between each other in which they judged the other as not only unfit to govern, but as evil people because they disagreed with them. And we do the same thing today when we look at the anti-vax conspiracy theorists that are completely wrong when it comes to science or keeping your children alive so they don't get measles or getting vaccines, but nevertheless are not evil people. And what we forget is that the left, the haughty academic left that presides over our elite media and elite institutions even today and is under attack by Donald Trump and his arrogance, did troll the right with the sexual revolution, with the idea that gender is fluid, with the idea that sexuality is assigned at birth. Again, I'm not commenting on those ideas. I'm just talking about the fact of how those ideas were received by the, quote, other side both ways. Forced to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple, whatever it may be, or the reverse of that. Forced to make a woman a vice president, whether she qualified or not, because you're suddenly meeting a corporate diversity and inclusion quota being forced on you, whether you like it or not. Reverse discrimination, all these issues. I'm not commenting on the issues. I'm just telling you what happened. We built a wall of culture war certitude. But certitude is a killer. You know, no one ever bombed an abortion clinic or flew an airplane into a building or murdered a girl in an honor killing in Pakistan when she's shipped back by her Pakistani Muslim parents to be killed because she's lost her virginity, or even watched a video they don't like. Nobody ever did these things after shouting, but maybe I could be wrong. You see, certitude builds walls. Judgmental idea about your opponent as evil builds walls. One of the walls the left has built is by refusing to tell the truth about so many things, calling anyone who questions whether vast amounts of immigration into Western countries by Islamic faithful from North Africa and other cultures is going to change the culture, suddenly denounced as Islamophobic. As if somehow the over 1,000 years of warfare between Islam and the rest of the world did not happen. The invasion of India, the invasion of Northern Africa, the Ottoman Empire, that somehow we ignore all this and say, oh, well, it's just about the Palestinians and Israelis, and it's all about colonialism, and we'll pretend none of this history exists. That is a kind of displacement for people who hear this again and again and are told to shut up. If you bring up a subject, you're Islamophobic, you're evil. Conversely, from the right, to criticize Israel and what they are doing to the Palestinian people at this point, no matter what the provocation, gets you qualified as anti-Semitic. Even if, as the case in my family, that part of my family is Jewish. Even if it is the case that you are pro-Israel in history and have talked and written about it, nevertheless, to question this makes you anti-Semitic and gets your funding cut if you happen to be a university. Ironically, funding for medical research, which helps everybody, Jews included. Again, I'm not commenting on the subject. I'm talking about the phenomena of culture war and what it has done to us by demonizing the opposition to our ideas. You're not just questioning the Saudi Arabian royal family. You are Islamophobic because you even bring up the subject of a mass murdering prince who has journalists killed, girls whipped, people beheaded, and disappeared in his culture. To mention this is Islamophobic. Let's pretend, hey, we don't see anything. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Cover your eyes. Let's just pretend it's fine. Same with the Palestinians, bombed into submission, children killed, little children who have had their legs and arms amputated, denying every single thing that the Torah teaches, every single thing that I learned as an evangelical from my Hebrew Bible, my Old Testament that we revered and loved, where my father would preach sermons about taking in the stranger, not from the New Testament, not the Jesus stuff from the Old Testament, denying all of that. Yet to bring that up makes you an anti-Semite. To bring up the truth about the Islamic hordes that poured into Europe all through the centuries and were fought back by people like Charles Martel, all of a sudden makes you not just somebody who talks about history in a way that you maybe disagree with and let's have an open discussion. No, you are Islamophobic. And if you bring up diversity and inclusion being forced down your throat by Health and Human Services Department in the government, or you talk about this in the context of a corporation or whatever, all of a sudden you are now a racist. You are now against women. You are now a misogynist. We have all these labels. And what do these labels do from the left and the right? They close the door to actual discussion. They demonize the opposition by calling them a name. God help you if you go up against the people now running the American Civil Liberties Union, what an irony, and want to have a discussion about the care of children who say they are trans or want to transition. You are anti-trans. You're transphobic. You can't even discuss this. God help you if you want to talk about the Palestinians and what's happening to them. You are an anti-Semite. God help you if you want to talk about the Islamic hordes, yes, huge, millions of people coming into Western Europe, terrifying Western Europeans who remember that every place the Ottoman Empire went, every place Saudi Arabia rules, every single Islamic country has a horrendous view of women and persecutes them. But to bring that up makes you Islamophobic. So I'm going to challenge you today to think about what the Trump era really is. The Trump era really is the punishment you and I, liberal, conservative, Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, gun owners, non-gun owners, all have earned ourselves a punishment, a plague on both your houses, because we have believed the bullshit of the people on both sides of the extremes, the clickbait makers in our country, who use the algorithms of hate and division, not because they're serious about their positions, but because they get clicks. And I'm sorry, I love what I think Bernie Sanders does, or AOC, or Donald Trump, or all these other people. They play this game. It's a clickbait game. Admit it. Our heroes on the left, ooh, we've elected a Muslim, leftist, Marxist, socialist in New York, and we're going to have free groceries, or at least government-run grocery stores. How did that work out in every East Bloc country? Oh, let's not talk about that. You're Islamophobic if you even bring it up. What Donald Trump is really all about is not about Donald Trump. He's an egomaniacal fool. He is the bull in the china shop, already destroyed and in rubble around us. Civil rights destroyed. Concentration camps, yes, I use that word literally, not as a euphemism or hyperbole, but literally being built to house people. Our fields stripped bare of workers, our fruit unpicked, because we are now raiding our own cities with masked men who won't even take their mask off. What kind of policing is that? Throwing people into vans and disappearing them in the night. Mothers snatched from children, leaving the child sitting on the sidewalk, wondering where their mother was taken to, dragged into a van by masked men. Who are these people? That's where we're at. But what is the true significance of it? And I'll ask a question about the culture war. How's it all working out for you? On the left, abortion rights. The fact that you, on the left, back in the day when I was an anti-abortion activist in the 1970s, you won the war. Roe v. Wade rammed a view of human life down the throats of tens of millions of protesting Americans in the Roman Catholic Church first, and then the evangelical community, saying we are right, and if you take another point of view, we won't even allow you to march in our demonstration, as happened when Trump was elected, and people who declare themselves to be Democrats and yet pro-life were told, no, this only is for pro-choice women. How's it working out for you? How is the divisiveness and absolutism and the absolute certainty working out for you? And I have an answer. His name is Donald Trump, and it applies equally to the right and left. Oh, no. I'm not making moral equivalence. When people in the Gen Z generation who are sexually active, and there are not many of them because they're so turned off by what we boomers created with our sexual revolution, where girls find themselves being choked on first dates by boys who have had all their sex education through online porn. How's it working out for you? How are the algorithms of AI working out for you as these greedy mongers at Meta and Starlink and Tesla and Facebook and all these other organizations are reaching out for us by ramming advertising down our throats by stealing information from us in the same way that the AI people are now stealing the copyrighted information that writers like me produce in books like Crazy for God, which are now used to train the AI bots to further refine the algorithms that will then create an environment in which we have no choices left. Oh, and by the way, speaking of culture war, if you bring this up, then you're anti-tech, you're anti-future. Just like if you bring up something about Saudi Arabia or Israel or anything else, you are labeled something, whether you're a sexist or a racist or an anti-Semite or Islamophobic or anti-gay or anti-trans. The labels immediately are attached to any opinion contrary to whoever disagrees with you, because that's the way culture wars are fought. And I want to say it again, the result is you got what you paid for. You have a fool in the White House and a Republican Party utterly cowed and subservient to this fool, who have just added $3.5 trillion to our deficit that will never be paid down, where Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all the other functions of government are teetering on a knife edge of oblivion. A few good years followed by the deluge. Hell on earth. That's what we've gotten ourselves into. That's what stupidity buys you. That's what the cults that we all belong to, left-wing cults, right-wing cults, anti-Palestinian cults, pro-Palestinian cults, anti-gay cults, pro-trans cults, that's what we're all in. There's only one way back. It's to find human common ground. That gun owner you fear also has a grandchild she loves. That, quote, homophobic, trans-hating neighbor who goes to an evangelical church loves to get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee and listen to the birds sing just like you do. Find the common human voice again, or it will be one Trump after another all the way down. His name is J.D. Vance, and there is no future for this country. There are people making billions of dollars out of making the walls higher, the clickbait merchants. There are people in office only there because they can generate fear from the people who follow them and say, if it's not me, look what the alternative is. But I have another way to look at this, and that is the reward of 50 years of culture war that Francis A. Schaeffer, my father, this whole ball rolling. We were responsible for the beginning, but the ending, his name is Donald Trump, and my name is Frank Schaeffer.